guys ready? I'd like to thank everyone for your patience. We're running a little long on the closed session today, but I'd like to welcome everybody to the Tuesday, July 11th, 2023 meeting of the Sierra Madre City Council. Madam City Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Mayor Edward Garcia.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Kelly Creeves. Here. Councilmember Jean Goss.
Here.
Councilmember Christine Lowe.
Present.
And Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Robert Parkhurst was previously excused. However, you do have a quorum this evening.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. Today we're going to have the Pledge of Allegiance and Inspiration led by Councilmember Lowe. Please.
All rise, if you can. Place your right hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, so I don't know if you guys are aware, but July is the National Disability Pride Month, which means that we are celebrating multiple types of disabilities and people with disabilities. It is the month of July because on July 26, 1990, the Americans with Disabilities Act was passed, which broke down those barriers to include all members of society. Part of that language prohibits discrimination in all areas of public life, including schools and all public and private places that are open to the general public. In terms of diversity of those with disabilities, we recognize intellectual and developmental disabilities, physical disabilities, and some statistics from the Center of Disease Control Prevention is 1 in 4 Americans have some sort of disability. That makes it 61 million persons in the United States, which is the same size as the country of Italy. So we are seeking to celebrate the intrinsic worth and meaningful contributions of all people. And I just wanted to quote, make a couple quotes here that stood out to me. I wish for a world that views disability, mental or physical, not as a hindrance, but as unique attributes that can be seen as powerful assets if given the right opportunities. And that was Oliver Sacks. And I just wanted to note a few of the amazing, unique people that we celebrate their attributes that are people with disabilities, are Helen Keller, Stephen Hawkins, of course, Franklin D. Roosevelt, and Dan Aykroyd. And the last quote, which really made an impact on how I thought about those with disabilities, was Dr. Temple Grandin. And she's a proponent and an author, speaker for autism, as well as a renowned animal behaviorist. And her quote was, "I am different, but not less." So that was my contribution this month.
Thank you, Councilmember Lowe. Okay, moving on to the agenda. Do we have any changes to the agenda, or do we want to approve it as is?
Move to approve the agenda?
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Carries unanimously. We have an agenda. Mr. City Attorney, could you please report out from closed session?
Thank you, Mayor. The City Council met in closed session under Government Code Section 54956.9, Subdivisions D4, to discuss 3 separate actions regarding the initiation of litigation. The City Council unanimously authorized the initiation of litigation in 2 of them. The actions, defendants, and other particulars shall, once formally commenced, be disclosed to any person upon inquiry.
Thank you. Yes.
Just one note, I did actually abstain from the first matter, so just for the record.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Okay, do we have a motion to approve reading of resolutions and ordinances by title only?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Carries unanimously. On to Mayor and City Council reports. Who would like to start?
Approval of meeting minutes.
Oh, sorry, I skipped the minutes. Yeah. Do we have any substantive changes that are presented to you, Madam City Clerk, or from the dais here regarding the June 27th, 2023 minutes?
Mr. Mayor, the city clerk's office did not receive any requests for amendments to the meeting minutes.
Any amendments from the dais here? No? Is there a motion to approve as presented?
Motion to approve the minutes of the June 27th, 2023 meeting.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, carries unanimously. Thank you. Now on to mayor and council reports. Who would like to start?
I'll go first.
Please.
I just wanted to compliment everyone involved with the 4th of July festivities here in town over the last week. It was, as usual, just a blast, and a lot of work went into it from the 4th of July committee. I believe we'll be here tonight getting a presentation, and lots of other people, all our staff, and just had a great time. July 3rd, the beer garden was fantastic, the music was fantastic, all the vendors were great, and then of course the parade and festivities on 4th of July were fantastic. I think that's my 9th parade as a city councilman. It just never gets old. So that's my report.
Thank you. Councilmember Lowe?
I'll reiterate, it was a fantastic event the whole weekend, and then falling to the Monday and Tuesday was really phenomenal. All the collaboration of everybody in town, almost every single group had something to do in town, and our town was just lively and so much fun. I also went to the concert in the park this last Sunday with Pat O'Brien and the Priests of Love. It was fantastic and well attended. The Planning Commission met on 7/6, and we were looking at a demolition of a building that has been sitting around forever up on Baldwin at 94 North Baldwin, and I'm excited to see what goes in there. It looks like it will be an Asian tea house. And also there was a presentation for one of the homes at kind of the 1 North Carter area under the Stonegate developments. That was interesting. SCAG event this next coming up week I'm interested in is about the extreme heat and how cities address that extreme heat, so that'll be interesting. And the Sierra Madre Chamber of Commerce quarterly board meeting will also be this July 19th.
Thank you, Councilmember Lowe. Mayor Pro Tem?
I don't really have much to add other than just adding my thanks to everyone who put in so much effort over the weekend between the chili cook-off and extending the weekend into the chili cook-off and the movie night. It really was just an entire weekend of festivities. I will note that the city did not put out fireworks, so anybody who was complaining about the plethora of fireworks, that was not the city, other than the bubble fireworks on the 3rd. I was just going to give a quick plug for this week's concert in the park, because it is actually a fundraiser in part for the Chantry Flats and camp that's still closed down because of all of the fire and flooding issues. And so I think Maggie Moran and her band will be there, so I think that will be great. And so if you're interested in supporting them, that's a great time on Sunday night.
Thank you. On June 28th, 2023, there was a meeting of the board of the Los Angeles County Sanitation District. Kind of on the upside, I always kind of look forward to the reports on the prevalence of COVID now, influenza within the water, but it's so small now that's not even being reported on anymore. So that's a victory there. We did approve a budget for the year. It's amazing the work that they do with the sanitation district. So really no other business other than the budget for that meeting. I also like to mention, I see Councilmember Cacciati from South Pasadena here. Thank you for coming. You're going to give a presentation a little bit. But it jogged my memory regarding the last COG meeting, the San Gabriel Valley Council of Governments meeting. I didn't mention last time, and I think it's important because I did see a dead bird the other night, that we're really paying attention to tossing any standing water, because there has been some West Nile found. I think it was in the city of West Covina, and a couple birds there. So we want to make sure that we're abating mosquitoes to the best that we can do to avoid the spread of West Nile or other viruses that are spread through those vectors. And also, of course, I'd like to applaud the 4th of July committee, the Community Services Department, our fire, our police, search and rescue, everybody for contributing to our 4th of July festivities. It was I can't remember within the last decade the 3rd of July festivities being so well attended. So the community was out there, our staff members were out there in full attendance, The parade was wonderful. I mean, I remember seeing big gaps after Taylor's previous years, but I think almost the entire parade route was filled with residents, and it was a great event. So kudos to all those community members that contribute to our 4th of July festivities and staff as well. With that, I do have a few announcements before we get into the presentations. On Wednesday, July 12th, everyone is invited to join the police department at 8:00 a.m. for the Coffee with a Cop at JPEG Coffee Shop. Again, July 12th at 8 a.m. at JPEG. This Friday, July 14th, is the 3rd and final hike. Is it the final hike, Chief? Okay. Maybe we'll get a 4th one, I don't know. With Fire Chief Bartlett, there are still some openings. You can register on the city's website on ActiveNet. Also, the fire department encourages all residents to sign up for the paramedic subscription program. For more information, please contact the fire department at 626-355-3611. Again, that's the best deal in town anywhere. So I encourage everybody to sign up for that paramedic prescription program. On July 22nd, there will be a 1-year anniversary ribbon cutting for Organic Juice Dude at 55 North Baldwin. Please come show your support for our local businesses. The ribbon cutting will take place at noon. Also, the Sierra Madre Public Library Summer Reading Program is happening now. Summer reading logs can be picked up at the library through January 29th. There are prizes for not just children, but for all age groups. And I see some of our staff up back there, and hopefully we'll hear a little bit about that. Please mark your calendar August 1st. It's the Sierra Madre Police Department National Night Out at Memorial Park. Again, August 1st at Memorial Park. The event will start at 5:00 p.m. And that concludes my announcements. Okay. So moving on to public comment for items not on the agenda. First, I'd like to read the Public Participation Code of Conduct. If you would like to make public comment for items not on the agenda or on the agenda, there are yellow cards at the back of the room. The participation code should be on there. It reads, your participation is welcome and invited at all city council meetings. The council requests that participants refrain from making personal, slanderous, profane, or disruptive remarks. A person who continues to disrupt the orderly conduct of the meeting after being warned by the mayor or designee to cease the disruption may be precluded from participation in the meeting. No signs, posters, or other large objects shall be brought into council chambers or other meeting place if doing so would disrupt, disturb, or otherwise impede the orderly course of the meeting. And with that, it's now time for public comment for items not on the agenda. If you haven't already filled out a yellow card, please fill out the yellow card and bring it to our city clerk. You will have 3 minutes to make your public comment. Madam City Clerk, do we have any comment cards?
Mr. Mayor, we don't have any emails or comment cards for this item.
Wow. That might be a first. Waiting for agenda items, I guess. Okay. With that, we're moving on to presentations. We do have quite a few presentations today, so thank you for your patience as we hear a few people speak. And first, I'd like to invite Michael Cacciati from the South Coast AQMD to give a presentation. Also, are you current Mayor Pro Tem or Council Member?
Rotated out of Mayor back to Council Member.
Okay, City of South Pasadena. So welcome, thank you.
Mayor, thank you so much. Council Members, great to see you. Mayor Pro Tem, Council Member, City Attorney, our City Attorney in South Pasadena, City Managers, City Clerk, everybody. I'm excited today because of all the things, Mayor, you're doing in this city which affect clean air and health and our planet. I'm your representative on arguably the largest regional air quality district in the nation. I represent you, you're my boss, and the 34 cities all the way from Santa Clarita, Burbank, Glendale, along the 210, the 10, and the 60 to Claremont. Those 34 cities, 2 million people. Next, James. Thanks, James. This is what the SCAQMD, South Coast Air Quality Management District, is. On the far left, they were formed right after the Federal Clean Air Act in the early 70s. The Federal Clean Air Act, EPA, established federal standards. LA was the worst in the nation, but there are many other places, Kentucky, Philadelphia, the steel mills, etc. People on the left are Inland Empire elected officials with a petition saying, LA, stop blowing all your pollution our way. So we were established, and it was the 4 counties, LA, Orange, San Bernardino, Riverside. There was actually 4 separate air pollution districts in the 50s and 60s, but they finally brought them together as one. 17 million people, 28,000 permitted sources from, you'll see them in oil refineries, landfills, etc. At the bottom, 1/3 to 40% of all U.S. containerized cargo traffic comes through our dual ports. And it includes the ships, the heavy-duty trucks, and all the warehouses. James, next. So on the left, AQMD, those stationary sources, this is what we have jurisdiction over. Only 20% of the pollution in our basin. So solvents, paints, auto body paint shops, gas stations, power plants, refineries. Mayor's, you're talking wastewater treatment centers, especially when Hyperion, which is a lot of notices of violation for the people in Sepulveda lately. The mobile sources on the right, we have no control. Although we've tried to go after locomotives, Supreme Court said no, we couldn't. But these are the big sources of pollution, the ships, the airplanes, the freight trains. And let me ask you this question. My staff didn't get it right. Every city has it got it right. How many passenger diesel trains go through our basin every day? Now, there's dozens, if not hundreds, of freight trains all along our corridor. And those locomotives are worse than 400 trucks. That's how bad that diesel locomotives are. How many freight trains do you think Metrolink and Amtrak go through our basin, the 4 counties every day? I didn't know when I first thought. 50, 100, 500?
Yeah, I think 100 would be my upper limit. I think that's kind of high even.
Over 200. Over 200 Metrolink and Amtrak every day. San Bernardino line along the 10 is the busiest. So, and almost all of them are diesel. Trucks, off-road equipment, the lawnmowers we use, and the cars. Next. Thanks, James. Here's why it's important, air pollution. On the left, we don't meet these standards at the federal government for ozone, and that's formed by the photochemical reaction, nitric oxide from internal combustion engines, lawnmowers, etc., and it hits with volatile organic compounds, and they mix, and that's the ozone you see. Well, on the right, this is a really serious one. The left one causes some inconvenience. The particulate matter is what's dangerous. That gray stick is your human hair. The little piece of sand on the left is compared to that. Look at that little blue globe. As we all walked in here today, and I do this at the high schools when I go and do demonstrations, we take a monitor, and we all kicked up dust. You don't realize it, you can't see it, but you kick up particulate matter 10 is the dust. But our bodies can easily, in and out, we fight it off. Unfortunately, to go up there to red globes, the 2.5, that's really smaller, metals, etc. When you go even higher, ultrafine particles at the very top, those actually go through your blood-brain barrier. And we've done studies 5 or 10 years ago, which now everybody in the world's confirming. It lodges in your organs for years and just sits there waiting to do some damage. And the studies we did, multi-million-dollar studies at Cedars-Sinai, have shown that in rats by freeways, which we put within 500 feet and then about 5,000 feet away, in the genes, smaller than your cells, inside your genes, the ones closest to the freeway, there was an expression of the cells, of the genes, that was consistent with Alzheimer's in humans. So the first test was actually done on humans this year, exposing them to PM 2.5. You can read it at University of British Columbia in January, and the same thing happened. They were just exposed for a temporary period, 2 or 3 hours, and what they did was they took an MRI before, MRI after, and tested their memory functions, cognitive functions. Everything was reduced. Came back a couple days later, because it was only temporary, everything was back to normal. So there's serious issues here. Next. Thanks, James. And this is your body, your family's body, a human, even a dog, animal, they're similar to us. When these go through your blood-brain barrier, they go into your circulatory system and your blood system all throughout your body, all your organs. So we always knew respiratory problems, then it was cardiovascular. Now we knew it's your nervous system and your brain. So it impacts all of us, all types of this pollution. Next. Here's the impacts on us. On the left, far left column, if we met clean air standards, reduce this pollution, electric cars, vehicles, trucks, lawnmowers, we could prevent 1,500 premature deaths a year. Second column. There's a lot of kids with juvenile asthma. We could prevent 8,700 of those attacks every year. Third column. Prevent loss from school and work. Mayor, I coached soccer for the last 30 years. I've had kids with asthma once every 5, 6 years, never more than one. Last year, a year and a half ago, I coached AYSO South Pass under 16 boys. And 3 boys, every practice, nebulizer, using it at practice. It's incredible. So you may not see it, but it's still out there. Final column, we could reduce health bills by $19.4 billion. Next. Thanks, James. So there's good news on the left. Back in the 90s, you can see air quality in the ozone was high. It's gone down a lot, but it's kind of leveled off because of wildfires. On the right, these are the metals. There's a multiple air toxic exposure study we do every 5 or 6 years, MATES. You see how purple was bad? It was bad in 2012. Because all the new technology, cleaner air, 2018 is getting better. Good news. Next. So bad news again, we can't control these sources of pollution. EPA does and CARB. These are mobile sources, trucks, planes, trains, ships, off-road construction equipment. Next. Again, this is just for you kind of overview. The USE, these are 3 agencies that regulate air quality. The 3 squares on the left, US EPA, in the middle, California Air Resources Board, us on the right. Why is this even important? Because at the bottom, in the green, if we don't meet clean air standards in the next couple of years, and those dates at the very bottom, 2023, 2031, 2037, EPA, even if they don't want to do it, by the Clean Air Act, they're required. There's no discretion. They've got to increase, if you want to open a business, they've got to double the fee now. Because of that money, they're going to introduce electrification, hydrogen fuel cell, et cetera. In the middle, they could take away, they must take away $1 billion of our federal funding and say you can't, and on the right, and there was a federal implementation plan a few years ago which said on Mondays only even number cars, on Tuesday only odd number cars. This is why it's important we meet that plus health and interests. Next. Thanks, James. Good news too. Mayor, for you, your city, your businesses, your residents on the left, we've got a lot of money available. Here's the incentive programs for residents. You got $1,500 if you change over to a clean air furnace. We don't care what you make, just do it, clean it up. Second column, get rid of your old polluting gas lawnmower. I did it 20 years ago. The technology is better like electric cars. We'll give you up to $250 for the cordless electric lawnmower, and they're great. Third column, want an EV charger. We'll give you $250 no matter what you make. If you're under a certain amount, we'll give you $500. And they range in price from $400. I got one a few months ago, $865 from ChargePoint. Final column, and you guys used it, you'll find out in a minute, someone in your city did this, up to $9,500, turn in a polluting vehicle, an older vehicle, 2007 or older, and we'll give you up to $9,500, get a Prius, electric car, plug-in Prius, plug-in hybrid, hydrogen fuel cell car, electric bike. You know, I think it was one of your residents actually pushed us and got an electric bike last year and did it. So now a number of people are doing that, but we give away 33 to 35 of those vouchers every month. A lot of electric cars, bikes, transit passes forever. At the bottom, we're developing a program, and I had staff contact, which you and I are part of, the Clean Power Alliance, to work together with Edison Clean Power and EQMD on something in homes or for residents to clean up our appliances, as we know with natural gas. Next. So again, money available for businesses and cities. Up to, now with our electric lawn equipment program, there's 2 programs going on right now. One at the state called the CORE program. They'll give you 70% off, and this is for mom and pop gardeners. They just got to turn in their equipment. Well, they don't even have to turn in equipment. They'll get up to 70% off a state-of-the-art, all-electric leaf blower, lawnmower, weed whacker, hedge trimmer, etc. Our program at AQMD, we want to get them off the market, so you've got to turn it in, but we'll give you 85% off, basically pay nothing, for a state-of-the-art lawnmower, weed whacker, hedge trimmer, leaf blower. And this is why we passed an ordinance banning gas-powered leaf blowers. Pasadena, Glendale did, because of these discount programs. There was $27 million at the state. It's under $10 million left. We have about 3.94 million. It's probably down to 3.5. But there's a lot of money still available. And if we do a quick demonstration on the technology, Ken Chalk, who used to work for Edison in the gas company, will show you. Mr. Mayor, this is the technology. This is just a handheld blower, not even as strong as a backpack blower with all the equipment on it. And this is about $199 at Ace Hardware. This battery and charger. And it probably lasts 35, 40 minutes, a residential one. But the ones with the backpacking over that, we did one test at AQMD parking lot, hour and 40 minutes nonstop. Just to show you the power, can you demonstrate what it does? So it's pretty powerful, good. Mayor, you want to test it?
It's okay.
Maybe we'll blow. Paper, hold your papers. Thank you, Ken. Ken, let me borrow this one. Yeah. Mayor, why is this important? Because this will take off. This little battery in here, this battery, lithium-ion battery, will replace probably 500 to 600 gallons of gas and dozens of 100 two-quart pints of motor oil, which you have to mix when you have a gas-powered leaf blower weed whacker. So this is important because you'll never have the pollution, you'll never have the waste, etc. And it's a lot quieter decibel level too. Also, Mayor, if your city, and I can't remember, I was out here once about a year ago with your electric maintenance of your facilities. I don't know if they're maintained by electric equipment yet or not. A lot of it, perfect. If you need any more equipment, it's also open to cities, school districts, nonprofits, mom and pop gardeners, the 85% off. You just gotta turn in the old equipment, and there's still stuff there if you want to turn in other things in, city manager, be happy to do that. And again, we'll come do the demonstration, let you try out the equipment if you want to, all makes and models. Next. There's a lot of money available still. This is the one at the top that somebody in your city used to replace their ride, $9,000 they got off. And in the middle, there's always applications available if you ever want to apply. Those come out a little later in the year. Keep your eyes open, I'll let you know. At the bottom, this is money that you get directly. So on each car registration in your city, everyone you get those $4 on there. AQMD gets 30. This one in the middle, Mobile Source Air Pollution Reduction Committee, which has a bunch of grants, they get 30%. You get the other 40%. So $1.60 of every car registered in your city every single year. You just keep getting that money. And actually every quarter you get the money. So looking at that number, you use 13,000, you may have 30,000. I heard you just bought some new electric vehicles, incredible. So I'm not sure how much you have left in, or check it, because that money just keeps coming every single year. The only restrictions gotta be used to reduce mobile source pollution. Electric vehicles like you did, electric lawnmowers, hydrogen fuel cell infrastructure, all the electric police vehicles, Mayor. I just wanna let you know our sergeant has been conversing with James and your staff. We're transitioning our fleet over, as you know. One of the first all-electric fleets in the nation. I know your city and a couple others have been working with our sergeant. And our first 3 vehicles are almost done at the upfitter, unplugged out by SpaceX. I was down there a few weeks ago. And the supply chain is a little slow, so we're just missing a couple more parts. Once those first 3 get upfitted, they'll be back in a few weeks, we hope. They're supposed to be back a week ago, but they weren't. Hopefully in a few weeks we get the final, the engineers from Tesla were down checking it out, final 2 parts. And after that, we're just gonna start, right away the other 17 vehicles. So whatever we can do to work with you, Mayor, I'd be happy to do that, and there may be some AQMD funds available, we'll see. Next. On the left, if you have any questions about a small business in here that needs a permit, we'll be happy. Rainbow, myself, Ken, our staff, come down and help them out with whatever they need about permitting. If you've got a complaint, when I was in San Fernando the other night, right at the end of the meeting, the council said to you, Mayor, in our city, right on the border of LA, but in our city, there's a cement plant. The same one that was a big problem down in Newport Beach. They said, well, there's dust, there's odors, can you help us out? Sent the staff down there that next day, but for some reason, the cement plant was closed. I don't know if they heard about it, but we looked for their records. All their record keeping wasn't there. Went down back the next day, and we said, you're supposed to keep records of this. You're supposed to be watering everything down. And then we went through the neighborhood, handed out flyers. Call this number if you smell anything. We'll be out there in a minute and take measurements, take samples back to our lab and do it. Same with you, Mayor. We'll be happy to do that. There's a free mobile app. You can download it, and whenever I take the Metro link out to Claremont, I always check as I'm going through every city what their air quality is. So good air quality today, pretty good. And we've got 39 to 43 monitors throughout the basin. We check every single day, and we even check the monitors. Next. And that's it, Mayor. I've got Rainbow, from our staff, Ken Chalkins, and we're here to always help you whatever you need. And I just want to let you know, Alex was a summer intern at AQMD one year, back in 2014 or so. Happy to answer any questions.
We're happy to have them. Thank you. I'd like staff to follow up with slide 10, the residential incentives, to get it on our website, get those residential incentives out in front of the public so they can take advantage of those right up front. Thank you, Council Member. Any questions?
I just want to make a quick comment. You've been giving these presentations for years, Mike. I've been on the council a long time. And I can say that we have implemented versions of what you've proposed on several occasions over the years. And your enthusiasm was a big part of that. So I just want you to know that.
Councilmember, thanks for doing it. I'm just proud to work with you. We've had the same city attorney for many years, and when I look what your city is doing, it's wonderful. So thanks a lot. Whatever we can do to help, Mayor.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to congratulate South Pass for being a leader on this. I mean, just between the demonstration you did a few years ago at our Earth Day with the electric power tools, it really got people talking about switching over with the and the conversations in town about moving away from gas powered lawn implements. That's really, I think, important, and I appreciate South Pass for taking all this leadership on that, and the police fleets and all of that. It's really inspiring, and to Councilmember Goss's point, it's inspiring us. So thank you.
Thanks, Mayor Pro Tem. Thanks, James.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So next, we're moving on to a presentation recognizing our Sierra Madre 4th of July Committee. I don't see Jim Annis. Are they all in the back? Oh, there they are. Yeah, come on in.
Well, we got the whole crowd here. Right.
Come on down. Yeah.
Alcorns. Pat. Pat Alcorn. You're up there too.
Yeah, I don't know. That's what they said.
Let's get you cooler.
Thank you, Chair Annis. Just if you give, some members of the public don't know exactly what this committee does and how much they do and what the city does to come alongside. But a lot of people just assume the festivities on the 3rd and 4th just happen. So if you could just give a little background on what you guys do, that'd be great.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So we are the 4th of July committee. We've been doing it, some of us have been doing it for a long, long time. I think 13 years, something like that. And along the way, we've gathered a bunch of very great, very helpful citizens in Sierra Madre that have really come through in some tough times, such as when we paraded around the streets of Sierra Madre. And we had what did we do? We had a bunch of cars and we kind of crisscrossed around through Sierra Madre. Did a COVID parade. But every year we kind of we put on a giant celebration of community, and we try and get everybody to come out and have a great time at the park down here, and hope everybody was able to come out and see the parade and see the band that comes out and play, and maybe hit the beer garden a couple times. But yeah, it's we start meeting in January and try and get everything planned. Work with the city with Lauren and Christina, they're not here, and Rebecca. There's Rebecca. Hi, Rebecca. And work with the city to try and pull off as great an event as we can. And we've been kind of doing it for a while, and this year was felt really great. So it was a big turnout. So.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, committee. I'll just have to say, Jim, your personality is infectious, and this committee and the whole entire vibe of the 3rd and 4th of July is one of just happiness and enjoying one another and enjoying community. So I'd like to say you're a big part of that. Obviously, big implementers here to get things done. I'm looking at the faces I see. I know you guys don't only do the 4th of July committee, you guys are big volunteers in the city, so thank you for everything that you do. I'd like to present this certificate of recognition. In recognition of the Sierra Madre 4th of July committee, in appreciation of your generous commitment of time, support, and enthusiasm to the 4th of July parade. Presented this 11th day of July 2023, Mayor Edward Garcia, Mayor Pro Tem Kelly Krebs, Councilmember Jean Goss, Christine Lowe, and Robert Parkhurst. Thank you for all that you do.
Awesome, thank you.
Bravo.
I'll sit in the back.
Does the parade.
I'll get back there.
Yeah.
Michelle and Allison. We want to see Michelle. On the front. I'll just kneel down. Nobody's blocking you. Do you see Michelle? Michelle, stand right here. There you go.
Cheese. Can we do one more? Can you do one more, please? Yes, yeah, here. Sorry. If I don't, not. Can you take a better one? Take a better one of me.
Yeah, we're missing Greg and Lori, so. I know.
Thank you.
Something too, because we're supposed to also acknowledge Lauren and and PD2 and Power and Water, Stephen and all them. I mean, that's Stephen. So it seems it wasn't included, but they're supposed to acknowledge all that. Can I just say something really quick? Just to add to that, you guys, thank you so much. But also, they work in really great collaboration with our all of our dignitaries that come in, as well as working with Lauren Hines, like we mentioned, and with Christina and Rebecca. And also the PD this year really did a great job at being so professional, helping us with the beer garden. And that was a big deal. And I can't thank you guys enough, Chief and Amos, for doing so much for us. It was really neat to see you guys there, as well as our fire chief grilling over with Rotary. But police, you guys had a lot to deal with. It was very busy, and you guys were so professional and so kind, yet so firm at keeping us safe. And we appreciate that at also at the end of the parade and everything you guys do. Thank you.
Thank you. I think they deserve a round of applause too. Thank you.
And water and power. Public Works.
Public Works too.
Oh my
yeah.
gosh, Public Works, I don't guys know if you knew that we popped a water line in the park while we were doing the jumpers. And we had, was it Gus and Damien? Is that and Clarence. Damien and Clarence were on call the whole weekend, and they were present every second, helping people out. It was phenomenal how well the city worked with the committee. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next. I know she's not a fan of the limelight, but I'd like to invite Julie Ben-Cosme up. Hi, Julie.
Hi.
So each year, Assembly Member Chris Holden recognizes women of the 41st District for making a positive impact on their community. The 2023 Women of Distinction are dedicated leaders who improve the lives of thousands of individuals and families in the 41st District and beyond. Their commitment to excellence and service has left an indelible mark on the San Gabriel Valley and the people who call it home. This year, one of the recipients of Assemblymember Chris Holden's 2023 Women of Distinction Award is a resident of the city of Sierra Madre. So please join me in congratulating Assemblymember Chris Holden's 2023 Woman of Distinction Award for the city of Sierra Madre, Julie Ben-Cosme. And I'd like to present you with our own little certificate of recognition recognizing the accomplishment. Julie Ben-Cosme, in recognition of Assemblymember Chris Holden's 2023 Woman of Distinction Award, the City Council extends its sincerest congratulations. Presented this 11th day of July 2023 by the Sierra Madre City Council, Mayor Edward Garcia, Mayor Pro Tem Kelly Krebs, Council members Jean Goss, Christine Lowe, and Robert Parkhurst.
Yay.
Congratulations,
Yay.
well deserved. Finally, you're going to hear a little bit about the Friends of the Library, with whom she is also the president of, and we're so grateful for all that you do for this community. I know you're generally like to be behind the scenes, but we're happy to bring you out front to recognize you.
I love
So
this town. Thank
we love
so
you.
much.
Thank you. Let's get a picture.
Oh,
Nice job, Julie.
All right, I'd like to invite our city librarian, Layla Regan, to give the library's annual report for fiscal year 2022-2023. Aloha.
Aloha. Thank you. All right, thank you, Mayor Garcia, Mayor Pro Tem Krebs, and our city council members. This is the library's annual report, and no action is required by city council. In case you have never met me before, hello all. I am Layla Regan. I'm your friendly neighborhood city librarian. And I'm here to give you all of our fun annual updates. Read, Discover, Connect. This was a very busy year for the library. I'm happy to say that this was my first year, full year as the city librarian, and I've spent a lot of time learning more about the city, learning more about my staff, learning more about the ins and outs of City Hall. I've especially taken a lot of time learning about grants and their peculiar nature. Additionally, I want to mention that this is the first year since 2019 that the library did not have any form of COVID closures. So, very exciting. The library had a lot of internal shifting, changing, and hiring this past fiscal year, which ran from July 1st, 2022 to June 30th, 2023. Currently, the library is made up of 12 employees. 5 of those 12 are full-time. The Sierra Madre Public Library strives to bring unique and enjoyable programs to our community. These programs range from our littlest patrons at Baby Rhyme Time to those all grown up with music and mindfulness. We pull from staff talents like our very own Chelsea Lee running an embroidery class over the summer and community talents to provide for Sierra Madre. This was a wonderful transitional year as the library returned to pre-pandemic programming. Say that one 5 times fast. There are currently only 2 programs that remain online, our Third Thursday Book Club and our Pajama Story Time. We have no hybrid programming currently, and hybrid is when we offer it in person and online. We're not doing any of that. We just have the 2 online programs. Our weekly Baby Rhyme Time and Preschool Story Time were moved back into the library from Memorial Park in March 2023. Other monthly programs that return to inside the library include class visits, Snack Chat, our teen book club, Craft It, Tales and Tales, as well as many more. The most recent year is in blue, so our previously ended fiscal year, and the previous year is in orange. So we had a little over 11,000 total attendees for our 392 programs for adults, teens, and children this past year. Looking at the previous year, we had 500 programs with a little over 10,000 attendees. The library continues to grow and change with our community and ensure we are providing to the best of our abilities. I would like to take this time to thank our friends of the Sierra Madre Library for their dedication, support, and donation of time and funds, without which many of our programs would not exist. I also wanted to mention, since you can see a picture of our gingerbread jamboree, after 2 years of having our gingerbread jamboree as a take and make build on Zoom, we were able to have it as an in-person event with 245 attendees. Additionally, I wanted to mention our One Book, One City event that takes place the entire month of February returned to all in-person programs, with an author talk, an airport tour, a movie night, a kids' paper airplane competition, and so many other wonderful events throughout the month. Working with city departments and local entities has allowed the library to offer a robust amount of programming. We partnered with the fire department for Fire Prevention Week, local teacher Danny Ritchie for a summer science workshop thanks to support from the Sierra Madre Community Foundation, and the Sierra Madre Civic Club sponsored our 2023 summer reading kickoff with Bubble Mania Company. That day, our summer reading kickoff day, we had 330 people visit the library. Annual programs like our bookmark contest, occasional programs like our teen awful movie night, and monthly programs like our Walk This Way, a Story Adventure are only able to continue due to generous donations from organizations like the Sierra Madre Civic Club, Sierra Madre Women's Club, Mountain View News, Sierra Madre Kiwanis, Sierra Madre Rotary Club, and the Sierra Madre Community Foundation, among others. We even receive an annual donation of icing from Poppy Cake Baking Company for our gingerbread jamboree. Additionally, thanks to volunteers from local communities, groups, and authors, we're able to offer additional programming like the Bailey Canyon Nature Walk with the help of Sierra Madre Environmental Action Council and a writer's workshop featuring local authors. We hope to continue to build and grow community partners. Many things are changing both in the Sierra Madre community and in public libraries. We have increased our digital services over the past years to include not only Libby by Overdrive app, where you can read ebooks and audiobooks for free with your library card, but we also added Canopy this past year, which provides streaming movie services. And we have Press Reader, which is a free digital magazine reader. We have e-resources for tutoring, veterans, career building, and more. You can check out a California State Parks Pass, mobile hotspot, sewing machine, robots, board games, movies, puzzles, and anything you need to explore, all alongside our in-person reference services and free programming. Oh, went too fast. I wanted to point out this checkout receipt from December 2022, and to show you how impactful libraries can be not only to our community through connections, services, and programming, but to a budget. This receipt is not a unique situation and shows an over $10,000 savings. We have many patrons and families that save thousands a year by checking out items rather than purchasing. We want to thank our Library Board of Trustees for continuing to provide support, guidance, and discussions on the library's direction. Our trustees help to guide this library toward a rewarding future. Now on to our statistics. Again, the most recent year that just ended is in blue, and the previous year is in orange. Total circulation includes items checked out from the library in person or online. This year, we had a little over 108,000 items were checked out compared to last year's total of 103,000. We provided library services during the pandemic while the building itself was closed the previous year, and we plan to continue to provide library services during the upcoming renovations. Though things like space, book collections, and programming will be impacted, we will do our best to provide and minimize the impact. Again, the most recent year that just ended is in blue, and the previous year is in orange. Our patron count refers to the number of people who have come to the library building. The library saw a little over 49,000 visitors this past year. Thank you to everyone who continually supports the library in person and online. So the fun stuff. What's next? The library has about 10.7 million, a little less than 10.7 million for renovations divided into 2 separate grants. Here you can see the specific things the grants are to be used for. There are also very specific things the grants can't be used for, like additional staffing or hours or books. And for example, the infrastructure grant cannot be used for anything external to the library. So for example, if we were to put in a external ramp for handicap, we wouldn't be able to use that building forward infrastructure grant. Just a fun fact. For the 10 million California State Library Targeted Grant, we have until January 31st, 2025 to expend those funds. And for the Matched Building Forward Infrastructure Grant, we have until March 31st, 2026 to expend those funds. We would like to especially thank Assemblymember Chris Holden for allocating the 10 million in funding. A little bit about our building. This building was built in 1955 with the expectation that it would be remodeled or torn down and rebuilt after 25 years. Well, 1980 has long since come and gone. And while additions have been made to the library, like our California room that is now the Sierra Madre meeting room and the computer room, the building has quite a lot of deferred maintenance needs. In addition to everything listed for the grants, we did a 2017 master plan that demonstrated a need for a new roof, new electrical, new plumbing, proper and larger storage for our archival collection, better programming area and or a civic and community space, also providing space for a Friends of the Sierra Madre Library in the form of a permanent bookstore and storage area. With so much to incorporate into this upcoming renovation, we're hoping to have support from organizations like the Library Foundation, Friends of the Sierra Madre Public Library, and other generous donors. I also do not want to take away from the work that has already gone into the library, such as the angled parking that went in this most recent fiscal year in front of our library, and the city's ability to match the Building Forward Infrastructure Grant. Total contributions to the grant campus from the city is projected to be a little over $814,000 between 2021 and 2025. So I want to say thank you to the City of Sierra Madre and City Council for this continued funding. What's next? Again, this is a very preliminary projected timeline for the library meaningful improvement renovations. We have contracted with TSK Architects to design a building with the grant's requirements and the libraries and communities' needs in mind. With that, I would like to hand it over this presentation briefly to Deputy Director Arnulfo Yanez regarding TSK Architects.
Good evening, Mayor Garcia, honorable members of the City Council. Arnulfo Yanez, Deputy Director of Public Works for the City of Sierra Madre. Last December, the City of Sierra Madre went out to bid for an architect firm to assist us with the library project. This was a nationwide search. We had 172 inquiries from across the nation, very well qualified firms. After a 2-month-long search, in the end, the most qualified firm was chosen. Reason being, as this firm, we, the city, feels, along with myself and everyone at Public Works Engineering, feel that this is the most qualified firm due to the fact that they are qualified in a way where they emphasize in civic design. And these are buildings specifically designed for municipalities across Southern California. With that said, at this time, I would like to introduce Mr. Jonathan Reichert, who is the senior architect with TSK Architects.
Good evening, everyone. I'm really pleased to be able to be here just to introduce myself as well as introduce TSK Architects to you all. To let you know a little bit about TSK Architects, we were started in 1960 in Nevada, and as Arnulfo said, that we are primarily a public works, a public architecture firm. So we really seek to serve municipalities and really just design buildings and places that are a real blessing to the people of those communities. So we actually have 5 offices in California, Nevada, and Arizona, 60+ employees, and again, over a 60-year history. And really our main focuses are civic projects. So again, working for public municipalities, and that includes cultural and community projects such as libraries, city halls, community centers. Then we also work on courthouses and then public safety. So police stations, fire stations, sheriff stations. And really our goal is to serve those who serve, really serve communities and really serve the people of communities. A little bit about myself is that my career has been primarily in the design of public structures, education, and civic projects, and really seeking to create places that are a real blessing to communities, to the people that use them, and really just help people to grow in their creativity and just grow in their daily lives. So if you have any questions about TSK or about myself, I would love to answer those for you.
Council?
None right now, thank you.
One question.
Please, yes.
In your experience with the public projects, how have you integrated community feedback and community thoughts about the projects over the various projects that you worked on, and maybe talk a little bit about your vision for that involvement in this project?
Yeah, so community feedback, especially with community projects, is of a crucial nature. Really, we want to design structures and buildings that really are meeting the needs of the community, and so we try not to come in with supposed ideas about what a place should be. And so for that process so far, what we've been doing is working with Layla and Arnulfo. We also had a citywide meeting just to hear the concerns and comments of the community. And I believe the plan also is, as we move forward, as we begin to establish an actual floor plan for the project, is to also once again present that to the community to get community feedback. Now, part of the process is always balancing the desires of a community, which often are more than what a building can actually hold, and also balancing the timeline of a project. Is that we have to keep a project moving forward and keep it on budget while also trying to meet the needs of the community. And so what we try to do is really hear everything that's told us and work that to the best possible solution that gets as far down that road as we possibly can. And it's been a real pleasure working with Layla and working with Arnulfo, and they've been just amazing and really helping move this project forward and really blessing. I think it's going to be a real blessing to the community here of Sierra Madre as we're able to renovate and expand onto the library and really help it continue to serve the needs of the community over the next 50 years.
Thank you. Please, Councilmember Goss.
Just hearing that the funds from the $10 million allocation have to be expended by January 2025, that means you're gonna be very busy for the next year.
Yes.
Can you paint a picture of stages that that's gonna take next year, in 2024? I know we're gonna move everything down to the rec center
Mm-hmm.
sometime this fall. Does that mean you guys are gonna begin work at that point in time?
So our goal is basically by the fall of this year, we're looking to have a fully designed project that is ready to be permitted and then ready to go out to be bid by contractors and really begin the construction process. So the goal is to hope that by January of this coming year, construction can actually be implemented, and so that over the course of that 12-year period, or 12-month period, that we're able to get that project completed. And so you're right, it is a very aggressive timeline, and that's something that our design team is very aware of, and is really trying to implement into how we design the building, is making sure that we're selecting systems that can be used within that timeline.
Seems like a real challenge.
It is a challenge, but it's a challenge we're up for.
Cool.
And working with Arnolfo and Layla, I think it's a challenge that they're really up for leading the process with as well.
Thank you. Yeah, so I get a little inside baseball because I get to talk to the city manager numerous times a week, and I ask him questions, and I talk to a lot of residents, and just bouncing off what Councilmember Goss had mentioned, a big concern from residents is the fact that we have to spend the money by January 2025. So I was leaning on the city manager a little bit. What's the process to make sure you're holding up your end of the bargain? I know, but I think for the public's edification, if you can explain what you guys have been doing maybe on a weekly basis as far as making sure that ball is getting carried forward to that goal line. If you could explain for the public what's been, and another important thing is your design and build, which is completely different than just a design and hiring a building. So I think that's going to help facilitate that issue.
Yeah, so what we've been doing is, first of all, we established a schedule, is that we looked at, not so much just we're going to take a few steps here, we're going to take a few steps there, but instead we looked at our end goal and then worked back at how do we move towards achieving it on that date and on that time. So established a schedule for design, really trying to make sure that we are moving forward in each phase of design. And so the phases of design was a pre-design phase, where what we were looking at is the existing building and how much money needs to get spent on just making sure that the existing building is operating well, and then how much money is actually left over for us to expand and really kind of make it be able to fit more some of the programs, as well as bring it into ADA compliance. Very apt that's what we're talking about this month. Is that the library currently has a lot of ADA issues, and so how do we correct those? So that was our pre-design phase, which we finished, and now what we've moved into is schematic design. And schematic design is where we take all that information and really start to design the building, looking at the floor plan and basic massing. Basically, what is the building going to generally look like? Once we finish that phase, which is about at the end of July, we move into what's called design development. And design development is a process where we develop the design and take it a little bit further, actually starting to look at the materials that go into the building, the systems that go into building, be it HVAC and IT and fire suppression, all those systems. And then finally we head into construction documents. And what construction documents are, the documents that a contractor will actually use in order to build the project in the end. And then one of the things that we've been doing and looking at trying to make sure that we meet that schedule is beginning to discuss with Arnolfo different ways that we can speed up the process in terms of how it is delivered from design into construction. And those are some conversations that we're still working through right now. And so that will also help us in terms of making sure that we're hitting that deadline.
Thank you for that. Any more questions? Thank you for I didn't expect you to be here, so I'm grateful that you came to answer some of our questions and give a presentation. Thank you.
My pleasure.
I'm not done yet. You still have me. I do want to mention that our temporary location has changed, It is now 350 West Sierra Madre Boulevard, which is a tenth of the mile away from us. It is will be the public safety building eventually. So my timeline, I just wanted to hit on some things for the library regarding this preliminary timeline. This July and August, we'll be trying to move our archives to the temporary location because they are very important. In August and September, library staff will work hard to prep the library for its relocation. This will mean examining the collection and our current storage, ensuring everything that is put into storage or comes with us to the temporary library location is needed. Programming will be reduced to allow staff to dedicate time to prepare for the relocation, so I wanted to let you all know about that. October and November, will be the main transitional time for the library. Our goal is to relocate in 4 to 6 weeks and have the temporary library up and running by Saturday, December 2nd. That is not a promise. That is what we hope for, December 2nd. The library will be closed for all services during the relocation, so we will not have any programming or in-person references. Just letting everyone know. In January 2024, the library hopes to launch a mobile library. I will have more details on that at some point. The temporary relocation does mean our collections programs and study space will be impacted. We are dedicated to doing all we can to provide for this community as we did through other hardships like COVID. However, we ask for your understanding and patience during the temporary relocation and reduced services and offerings. Again, given the amount of work this 1955 building needs, which was just illustrated again, we will be leaning on our Library Foundation and the Friends of the Sierra Madre Library, as well as other donors, to update this library to meet the needs of the community. That, I just want to say thank you. The library has focused this last year on the best way to serve the Sierra Madre community. With new programs, a start towards a renovated building, and added services and offerings, the library is grateful for all the support we have received from the city and Sierra Madre. We cannot thank this community enough for their continued support. It has been my overwhelming pleasure to serve this community as the city librarian. I hope to continue to serve you well. Thank you. This concludes my report. Myself, Deputy Director of Public Works, Arnulfo Yanez, and Jonathan from GSK will be here if you have any questions from City Council.
Thank you, Librarian Regan. Council, do we have any questions for Librarian Regan?
I have one quick question. I don't know if this is still current. In the old days, we could use the Pasadena library system with our card. If during that temporary closure, if families need to use, let's say, Hastings Library, do they go and get a new card for Pasadena? Can they use their Sierra Madre card?
As far as I know, you have to have a Pasadena library card. I will look into that. I think that was when we still did interlibrary loans, which we are no longer doing. So I am doing everything I can to see what we can do during that closure. We're hoping to be closed as small amount as possible, but we will see what happens. But hopefully that is a wonderful point, and I would love to look into that more to see if that is actually a possibility again. Thank you.
More questions for Librarian or Deputy Director Yanez or Jonathan from TSK?
I will mention that I'm looking into getting an extension for the grant, the 10 million grant. I'm going to try. I make no promises. It is a state grant, so.
We appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. I know we generally don't have public comment for presentations, but have we received any public comment cards for this agenda item?
Mr. Mayor, we did not receive any comment cards or emails.
Okay, thank you. Next, I'd like to invite back Deputy Director of Public Works, Arnulfo Yanez, for an update on our museums in town.
Again, good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. Arnulfo Yanez, Deputy Director of Public Works. I'm here this evening to provide an update on the Richardson House and Lizzie's Trail Inn. In this fiscal year of 2022-2023, the city budgeted $80,000 to remodel the Richardson House back shed, also known as the still room, and evaluate the storage shed area. At Lizzie's Trail Inn, to preserve both the oak tree and notch along the roof of the porch, of the front porch of the building. Earlier this year, staff met with a local architect and determined it would be prudent to complete a historic assessment and review of both buildings. Staff contracted with Southwest Environmental Inc., a firm located here locally in City of Pasadena, consultants to complete a historic assessment of both the buildings. The report was recently completed, and it was determined that the following. Nor the Richardson House or Lizzie's Trail Inn is eligible for listing on the National Register or the California Register. However, the buildings are eligible for local historic designation. Staff has fully reviewed the report, and copies of the report will be made available to City Council, Historical Society, and the public. The next steps will be staff will contract an architecture firm to create a scope of work and plans should we move forward with this project. It is anticipated that the scope and the RFP is estimated to take a few months to be completed. We plan to bring the project to council for award a bid sometime around December. Staff estimates approximately 60 days of construction after a notice to proceed has been issued. This concludes my presentation. At this time, I'll take any questions.
Please.
Sir.
Thank you for your report. The still room, so we now have the go-ahead and repair that, because I was under the impression that we weren't sure whether or not it's been validated, what the original scope of that work was going to be, because we weren't sure what its original condition was way back when. So we're clear for takeoff now?
Yes, sir. But we would have to run it by the Planning Commission. This would have to be taken into discussion with Director Gonzalez and Planning Commission, along with the Historical Society, sir.
But there's no legal impediment at this point?
Not that I'm aware of at this time.
Okay.
Since I'm new to council and I wasn't here when we first brought this up, could you tell me briefly, I understand it's the still room and the roof, or is that the same?
Two buildings.
Two different buildings.
Okay.
Lizzie's Trail Inn is
the
a
roof.
beautiful oak tree
Yes.
right in front of the building. And then we have the Richardson House towards the rear is the still room.
And we just have to, it's the repair project overall, or you said something specific?
Specific to those two areas there.
Okay. And that assessment hasn't been done. That's what I'm asking, like what has to be done?
Well,
Is that what
can I
needs to be
follow up on
assessed?
that?
Thank you.
So we're talking about the roof in the oak tree, right?
That is
in
correct.
the one case, and then the structure in the other.
Correct.
Other case,
Thank you.
Right.
That's what I was asking. Thank
Correct.
you.
Yeah, there's, just to expand on that, there are two rooms basically at the Richardson House. One is what we're calling the still room. It's part of the original, but it's now blocked off. You can't enter there because it's,
Okay.
and there's a storage facility behind that as well.
Got it.
Okay. Deputy Director Yanez, could you please expand on what you went over kind of quickly as far as the National and California Historic Registry? We did not get that, and then what entails being able to be put on those registries, and did they have an explanation, or is that still really new? We haven't looked at that report yet.
There is the question has been answered, sir. Yes, two separate listings there. One of the main concerns to be eligible to be on the list is a known architect, a known builder of the time, a Green and Green, a John Williams, Frederick Henderson type of design from that time period, along with the fact that there were no permits found on file, nor here nor in LA County. There are some other issues that were involved in this.
Probably predates permits, I'm assuming.
That is correct, sir. Unfortunately, these are the rules that are in place nowadays. One main issue here was a substantially tremendous amount of altercations over the decades. That is really pretty much the nail in the coffin here.
So I know we have designated residences as historic buildings. These would be city-owned? Do we have any city-owned buildings that are that have been designated as historic, and can we do that?
I'm not sure if Director Gonzalez is in attendance. Maybe he can answer.
Oh, there he is.
I turn this over to Director Gonzalez.
Thank you.
Thank you. We had a previous city-owned building, which was City Hall, which is designated. Specifically, Lizzie's Trail Inn, as well as the cabin itself, are qualify for cultural or historic significance because of the individuals that were associated with that project.
Thank you.
Before you go, I just have a follow-up. What's the import? I mean, what would be the benefit of having them listed either at the national and state level, which we now understand we're not eligible for, and then what would be the benefit of designating them by the city, given that they're city-owned buildings?
So it wouldn't have a monetary benefit. It would just protect the buildings. It would acknowledge and recognize the buildings, that they are significant, culturally significant or historically significant, not architecturally. And that we would just, what we typically do with other projects that are eligible, even just eligible for designation, we will have that DPR form, or the Department of Parks and Recreation Historic Evaluation form, placed in the library archives. You can also place a plaque at the site as well.
Thank you.
I have a follow-up question on that. Are there any negatives to designating it? Like, for instance, would it limit what we can do to the building?
Not for a city, especially if since it's not architecturally significant, there are no limitations.
I asked that question because a lot has been brought up with some other local Pasadena and other buildings around, like for instance St. Luke's, and one of the reasons they can't demolish it is because it has historical significance addressed to it. So I was wondering, and I've heard things about homes, like personal property, if it's designated, there's certain limitations to what you can actually do when you want to fix it or remodel it. So that was why I'm asking.
Great point, thank you.
There is an additional permit that you have to obtain. It's called the Certificate of Appropriateness if you want to make any changes to historic buildings that are designated historic. But in this case, I don't think that would apply to a city-owned building. It would apply to private residences, private structures.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions for staff? Thank you, Director. Thank you, Deputy Director.
Thank you.
Okay, any public comment for that item? Seeing none, okay.
We have one in the
Oh, we do have one, okay. It's okay. Please.
Hi, my name's Emmett McGuire, 180 San Gabriel Court. I'm a director of the Historical Preservation Society, among others that are here today. I don't have a comment, I have a question, a couple questions. One is this report that is supposed to be given to the City Council and to our society. I'm wondering when that's going to happen. This has been in the works for a long, long time, and if this has come through, we'd like to see it ASAP. Do we know when that's going to happen?
I don't know if we could have City Manager's office follow up with Mr. McGuire.
Or actually to...
or the Historic Society.
The Historic Society would be great.
Please. Yes.
It also seems to me that a couple of misstatements were made about historical preservation. Things that can be changed can be changed on the outside, but not the inside. It may be a fine point, but with Lizzie's and the Richardson House, there's a whole lot of inside in both of them. If you haven't been there, I invite you to come and take a look. It's very rich inside both of them. And the outside is interesting, but probably, aside from structural issues, less interesting than the insides. Mm-hmm. So that's just a minor point, but we are somewhat concerned about the failure to get that designation. It seems like I'm wondering if there's an appeal process too.
We'll look. Yeah, we'll have staff look into that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McGuire. We have Trustee Sands. Yes. Please.
Thank you. I'm Diane Sands. Besides being a library trustee, I am the vice president for the Historical Society and also the museum curator. I just want to make it very clear, and I do understand the significance of not being able to designate it because it's not of architectural design by someone like a Paul Williams. But these buildings were in danger of being torn down in the 70s and also even into the 80s and 90s. And it was a historical society who stepped up, working with the city to maintain them and make sure that they weren't torn down, because to the city they are of historical significance. The insides are well maintained. Our concern is with, on Lizzie's, the roof. We don't want it to deteriorate more and cause any flooding inside the building. And again, the tree is impinging on the porch, but we don't want the tree to go. So it's a conundrum. And then in the Richardson house, we really would love the back room. The back room was put on in the 20s. It was put on as an overflow kitchen for Lizzie's. It was also used as a laundry facility, and yes, it is where we believe that the still did reside at one point. So we would love to have that space to utilize, to then in the back 2 rooms of Lizzie's that we have open now, to utilize that space for more displays so that we could show more of the ephemera of the town that we have. So it is very important to us, and you know, I just say, please keep all that in mind.
Thank you.
Thank you.
City Manager?
Mayor, if I may add, the next step will involve the Historic Committee, and staff will be working with them to make sure that their concerns are addressed in the design. And the report, I believe staff received the report late last week and should have it reviewed by the end of this week and available for the public by the end of this week, early next week.
Thank you for that.
So my name is Leslie Ziff, and I'm the president of the Historical Society. And I think you just answered one of my questions. I was upset that we never got any information at the very beginning of all of this, that this was going to happen, and that, you know, that the report would not come also to us. Understandingly, it would go to the city, but seeing that we maintain and are there every week, we feel very protective of it. Also, the Hart Park House, isn't that a landmark place? You were asking about other city buildings that were, and Hart Park House is the winery and has been designated, so it should be on that list. It's on our list of designated things. So, and to answer maybe Mrs. Craig's question, for any landmark home, they can't, because I own one, so I understand, you can't change the outside of it unless you get permission from the city in what you're doing, but you can change anything on the inside. So that's basically the difference. Okay, thank you.
Can I ask a question of Leslie?
Please.
Yeah. Leslie, refresh my memory, because the issue in the still room is that you guys want to keep it pretty much the way it is now.
We'd like to keep it, well, we'd like to make it more safe.
Right.
Keep it safe.
But structurally, you're not looking
structurally,
for
we want to keep it that way because we want to turn it in. We have school groups that come every year, many school groups. We want to make it into a kitchen. Like Lizzie used it as her second kitchen. So we want to be able to put stuff in there that she used, which we have, and make it kind of a demonstration kitchen for that purpose.
Right.
And then that would alleviate the second room in the Richardson house. If we move some of that out, then we can put in some display cases that will show many of the historical things that we can't put out right now because we don't have room. So, does that answer?
Yes, thanks,
Jean.
Thank you, President Ziff, and thank you for all that you do for the Historical Society and everything else. And I encourage the public to go visit the museum on the weekend.
Yes, Saturday, 10 to 12.
Thank you. All right, I think we're at our last presentation. Yes, we are, of the evening. I'd like to invite our Director of Community Services, Rebecca Silva-Barone, up to give us an update on our playground structure in Sierra Vista Park.
Good Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of our council and our community. So, at the request of our Mayor Pro Tem, Kelly Krebs, we're providing you an update and overview of the Sierra Vista Park Playground Project. Just under a year ago, our City Council awarded the project bid to Miracle Playground Sales, which then allowed for our staff to purchase new play apparatus at the existing site. And in addition to that, a new adults fitness workout zone near the basketball courts with a rubber surfaced area, integrated shade structures, and ADA accessibility. Consequently, the city team also consulted with the arborist on site in an effort to address the concerns to save the sycamore tree, the beloved sycamore tree. And so at which time it was also recommended that the playground should be placed no closer than 15 feet from the tree. So following the new proposed layouts, the equipment was then ordered in December of 2022 with the expected lead time for delivery in September of 2023, which is coming up soon. So the following demonstrates a timeline for the project following our equipment purchases. May 15th, K&A Consultants was awarded the professional services agreement for design and supply plans and specs for the playground. Now currently the design phase is being managed by Public Works and the K&A engineering team in preparation for the subsequent steps that will be leading into construction. May 30th, Public Works coordinated a project walkthrough with K&A and our department team as well to assess the grading and other areas that are requiring inspection. So since then, the site topographical map has been completed, and now the new task involves researching underground utilities, which may include 2 natural gas mains and electrical conduits within the project limits. Additionally, K&A Consultants are finalizing the location for the playground footprint, which will then focus on the installation to include the preservation of the double trunk 36-inch sycamore tree. This is critical as some of the tree root zones could be impacted and affected during the removal of the actual existing equipment and the clearing and the excavation and the digging and all the other operations that have to take place. So the team will have to really balance the playground safety as well as the loss of green space adjacent to the park area where the current gazebo playground picnic shelter is located. And it is of a substantial size. It's nearly 1,000 square feet. And lastly, in September, we do expect delivery of the playground equipment as stated, and Public Works will be going out to bid for the construction of the selected contractor to be ready to proceed when the equipment has arrived. And with the goal of completion for the entire project by December of 2023. So all parts and playground equipment will be in possession of the city before the notice to proceed is issued to the selected contractor. That concludes our presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions, and staff recommendation is for City Council to receive and file this informational report.
Thank you, Director. Do we have any questions for the Director?
Just one.
Please.
So you mentioned that because the footprint of the playground may need to shift to better accommodate the tree, and that may impact the gazebo that's there currently.
It's more about balancing the open space that's further south to the park.
Oh, okay.
But yes, making sure that there is also enough space between that and the adjacent picnic shelter.
Right. So there's no contemplation of removing the gazebo structure.
No.
Okay. Thank you.
I guess I have a similar question that we did with the library. How did we determine exactly what toys and such to put there? Because I remember being a child, and when the spinny wheel went away because it's dangerous, and the rocket at Pasadena's park, it was hard.
I have an appreciation for those components and those features. Well, essentially, when we went out to bid, we did have a selection of a total of 3 vendors, 3 companies that submitted their proposals. Each were very unique and different with the theme and the colors and the schematics. And so that went through our Community Services Commission, which got to also make the selection and then forward that recommendation with all those unique pieces. And then we brought that to our city council. So we did look at a little bit of everything, you know, trying to stay within the dynamics of the city, of Sierra Madre and the culture and all of that. So that's what included part of that process.
There is not a metal merry-go-round, sorry.
No, there
on it.
I know, rocket ship. I will say historically, for your benefit, there was, I think there was another play structure. I preferred the color, but I didn't prefer it $300,000 to $400,000 more. So that goes in part of the
Yes,
decision-making, yeah.
cost had a lot to do with that as well.
Or that odd tube that we had at the Memorial Park in the playground for years.
Oh, that was fun.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Director Silverbrun, thank you for this. I just want to, this is the busy time of year for you and your staff, and I just want to say we appreciate all that you do to enhance the events here in the community. I know you have a small staff, but the 4th of July festivities, the movies in the park, the concerts in the park, you know, I can go on and on. Thank you for your service to this community. And
Absolutely,
make sure you
thank you.
your
I'll
staff.
relay that to our team.
Yeah, please.
Have a good night.
Please.
Thank you.
Thank you. You know what? We're done with the presentations. I'd like to take a short break for. We had a closed session that preceded this. I'm sorry for those that are here for other items on the agenda, but let's take a 5-minute break and we'll resume council business at that time. Thank you.
Thank you. My watch is telling
think that's the first time we've had a break before the consent calendar since I've been on the council. Now we're to the consent calendar. Madam City Clerk, would you please present the calendar?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This evening, the City Council is being asked to consider 5 items on the consent calendar. For consideration, consent item A is Resolution 2352 approving certain demands. Staff recommends that the City Council approve Resolution 23-52 approving payment of city warrants and library warrants as well as payroll transfer. Consent item B is consideration of acceptance of donation from the Friends of the Sierra Madre Library for the Sierra Madre Public Library Meaningful Improvement Project. It is recommended that the City Council accept the donations and terms for allocation of those funds from the Friends of the Sierra Madre Library. Consent item C is consideration of Resolution 23-55 approving participation in the Los Angeles Urban County Program. It is recommended that the City Council adopt Resolution 2355 and authorize the mayor to sign the city cooperation agreement. Consent item D is consideration to approve the notice of completion for fiscal year 2022 through 2023 for the water main replacement project. It is recommended that the City Council approve the notice of completion and direct staff to file the notice with the county clerk's office. And lastly, consent item E is the declaration of city-owned vehicles and equipment to be declared as surplus. It is recommended that the City Council declare vehicles and equipment that were listed in the agenda report as surplus. Mr. Mayor, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. All right, let's bring it back to council for questions on the consent calendar. I'll go item by item to see if we have questions. Item A. B. Item C. Item D. E. All right. No questions. Do we have any public comment on the consent calendar?
Mr. Mayor, we did not receive any emails or speaker cards for the consent calendar.
Thank you. Before we have a motion, bring it back to the council for discussion. Anything to discuss on any of the items?
I did not have any.
I mean, I would just like to highlight it for those who maybe didn't look at the agenda report closely, and we obviously aren't discussing it at length, but I wanted to just point out that the Friends of the Library have generously provided pledges for funding of close to $700,000 in additional funding for our library improvement project. So just want to put that out there and really just thank them for their dedication, you know, over many decades and certainly as part of this project. So I know many of them wanted a new library, and so I'm so grateful that they are supporting the current project and are doing so both with their work and with their pocketbook.
Took the words right out of my mouth. That's an item that's on consent, but it's worth calling out. We have Julie Ben Cosme, who we recognize tonight as the president. We also have other Friends members here in attendance. So this isn't city funds. It's not taxpayer funds. This is direct donations from individuals that love our library. Get a little emotional, but I appreciate that our residents do step up and help out. Knowing our budget, I'm grateful. So thank you, Friends. Thank you, community, for that. Any other comments on the consent calendar? Okay, I'd like to entertain a motion.
I move to approve the consent calendar.
Is there a second? Thank you, Councilmember Lowe. All those in favor?
Aye.
Carries unanimously. Okay, we have a couple of public hearings. Moving on to our first public hearing. Excuse me here. It's a consideration of adopting ordinance number 1468, amending Title 5 Business Licenses and Regulations of the Sierra Madre Municipal Code. Who do we have presenting on this?
That will be
City Attorney?
That'll be the city attorney.
Mayor, I have an oral presentation for you today. I'm basically going to summarize what's in the staff report. So we're focusing this time on amending our business license ordinance for a couple of reasons. First, it's old. It hasn't been amended since 1992, and even in 1992, those were procedural edits, not substantive edits. But a lot has changed in the law since then with respect to business licenses, fees, and taxes. Which brings me to the next point, inconsistencies within the code itself. In some places, it refers to a business license fee. In other places, it refers to a business license tax. Now, I think I know why this distinction exists, but I'll be speculating. But I know from the record, just looking at the ordinances that were adopted, at first it was called a fee, and then at some point during the reorganization of the code, we started using the term tax, but we didn't use that term tax uniformly, and then we've inconsistently been applying this tax term, because really what we're doing is, when we come up with that business license fee, it's a proper fee, because it's tied to the cost of service. It's not a tax in the sense that it's not greater than the cost of service that we're using for purposes of revenue. If that was the case, there'd be some cause for concern, because as you probably know, to increase taxes, you need to have a vote of the people, and we don't have votes of the people on these business license fees. Third, there are a number of different types of business licenses referenced in this business license ordinance in the entire title. We're going to remove the ones that we don't use in the city. So for example, a business license for bingo games, or taxi cabs, or the display of books, magazines, and other publications. I don't know if business licenses have ever been issued for any of these categories. It's not uncommon, because at the time when these ordinances were adopted, across all cities, they adopted these different categories, and we don't really make use of them today. Next is an enforcement issue. When we began trying to enforce some of these business license conditions, we realized that enforcement was very difficult. And it's difficult because the ordinance itself isn't written clearly. One, it's not clear on what grounds we're revoking. Second, it's not clear who gets to revoke. And third, the actual revocation and the hearing involved in that revocation, that whole procedural aspect to it, is also undefined in the business license ordinance. So we're adding that definition. There's also the concern raised by staff regarding pre and post inspection, and I want to provide an example here. Earlier in the year, we tried to do a code enforcement action against the massage parlor. And when we went into that massage parlor, we discovered that they have a shower that was converted illegally. So people are sleeping there and they were showering there. We would have caught, and then when we brought that to the attention of the renter, the tenant said, well, that was in there before we moved in. And so we can solve this problem by having a pre-inspection, as part of the business license permit, we have a pre-inspection component where we go in and we just make sure that, okay, if this is the business you're trying to perform, we make sure that whatever you're trying to perform, the facilities in which you're trying to perform them meet code. And then the same with a post-inspection process. If you're going to terminate, then again, in between a new tenant taking over and the other one leaving, we're going to do a check to make sure to see what's changed at that site. If anything's been converted illegally, if laws have changed requiring ADA access, etc. So in sum, the ordinance amends Chapter 5.04, which has to do with business licenses, to convert the business license tax into a fee, to simplify the multitude of business licenses into 3 types. We're going to have a 1-day permit, a 30-day permit, and an annual permit, regardless of the type of business, with the exception of some that I'm going to call out later. To clarify which types of businesses are subject to alternative licensing procedures, create a robust mechanism for application, denial, suspension, and revocation, as well as procedures for appealing those determinations. Clarifying the authority to issue, suspend, or revoke business licenses rests with the Director of Planning and Community Preservation or his or her designee. Consolidating numerous chapters regulating business license requirements, fees, and enforcement into a single chapter, and adding provisions authorizing pre and post issuance inspections of business premises. Now we do one thing in addition to all these business license amendments that we're making. We're also making a targeted amendment to the massage ordinance. The massage ordinance, like the business license ordinance, isn't very clear on the grounds for which we can revoke or suspend a permit. We're clarifying that by tying it to what's the grounds that exist in the business license ordinance. So if we can revoke or suspend based on what the business license ordinance says, we can do that same, we can have the same basis for revocation or suspension in our massage permit ordinance. In addition, and this came at the recommendation of the Massage Therapy Council that regulates massage businesses in California, having a condition in there that says that if a massage business has violated one of these conditions and their permit has been revoked, they can operate another massage business at that same location for 5 years. Because what we found is happening, and this is true California-wide, is that an individual pull a permit, operate illegally, the city will revoke that permit, and they'll simply sell that same business to another entity that's part of, let's say, the same syndicate, or they're affiliated in some way. And they continue to operate massage businesses, and they just keep changing hands. So in order to avoid that issue, we can have a 5-year ban in place for that specific business type at that specific location. As mentioned, there are a number of different types of business licenses that we aren't going to rescind. So for example, cable television systems, state video franchises, licensing for tobacco retailers, uniform transient occupancy tax, the photography and motion picture filming permits, which we recently amended that code section. These will remain in place. We do either implement these, or there's reasons at the state level because of state regulations for keeping them. But like we said, or like I said, the remainder of them are going to be the ones that we don't ordinarily issue. We're going to be consolidating into a single permit. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Let's bring it back to council for questions. Do we have any specific questions on this item for staff?
This item, I'm curious. So we're looking at the language in the fee assessments, but we're not looking at the actual number of the value of the fees.
Correct.
Correct.
The fee is going to be determined by a fee study, and the fee study will determine the appropriate fee amount. This will not impact any business license fees.
Mayor Pro Tem?
I just have 2 points. One, I think you described part of what we were doing as converting the taxes into fees, and I don't think that's quite what we're doing, because I don't think they were ever taxes, right? I think they were just misnamed, and so I just wanted to make sure that the record was showing that we were just clarifying that these have always been fees, and we're going to continue to treat them and call them fees. And then a question, so this 5-year restriction, I do like that, because I do understand that that's kind of the common practice in that industry when there are violations. Is it simply a restriction on location, or is there also a restriction on the entity that had the license revoked, irrespective of where they're located? Or maybe we don't care because it's a single purpose entity and they'll just form a new entity anyway. But it just occurred to me that limiting the location obviously is helpful, but that doesn't prevent that same group of affiliates from just finding another location and opening a new business.
Under this ordinance, it will, and that's because our enforcement has changed. Because of our recent experiences, we've learned a lot about massage ordinance enforcement, especially in our conversations with the Massage Therapy Council. So what's going to happen is, if we find a future violation, we're going to pursue 2 separate tracks. We're going to pursue an administrative track under this new business license ordinance. So we're going to suspend their business license, suspend their massage permit. We're also going to pursue a separate track at the state level. This Massage Therapy Council certifies all these businesses. And so if we report to them at the administrative level that we have a suspension, we provide that evidence to them, they suspend at the state level. So that person engaged in that activity, either the masseuse or the business, because they're both separately certified, will lose their certifications and can't practice in the entire state of California, and they won't, given how this new ordinance is written, they can't open up a new business because a new business license permit, well, the new business license requires proof of state certification.
Oh, okay, thank you, I appreciate that.
A question that, following up on that, that it would be the business's certification, but not the individual people working in?
There's two.
Okay.
There are two separate types of certification at the state level.
Mhm.
But for purposes of this business license ordinance, it's just the business
Okay.
that we're licensing.
Not the individual person.
Any other questions? I have a couple. One is, I myself have a home occupancy license for my business. Does the pre-issuance inspection, post-issuance inspection, does that apply to also home occupancy licenses or just straight business license?
Just the business licenses. The home occupancy is under a separate ordinance in the zoning code.
And thank you. And then obviously we've learned a lot, and part of the reason we wanted to revise this language was for what we've learned through violations with a couple massage parlors in town. We've also, the council has discussed short-term rentals and using the revocation of business license as a way to penalize bad actors. So the language, can that still be useful for that? And part B of that question is, we were talking about requiring business license for short-term rentals. Do we need language within this document to reflect that? Or is that something that should be done anyway and we can start just really kind of looking around and enforcing that?
So the language in this ordinance, the definitions are broad enough to capture short-term rentals. Currently, the practice is to require short-term rental or owners of properties of short-term rentals to obtain a business license. But we've yet to pursue any kind of suspension or revocation because we simply didn't have the tools. The language wasn't clear enough. And now we will have the tool to do that with those bad actors.
Okay, thank you. Any follow-up? All right, this is a public hearing. It's up for public testimony. Do we have any public comment cards for this item?
Mr. Mayor, we don't have any public comment cards received. However, the city clerk's office did receive one email that was forwarded to the city council, and that is the only public comment that we have on this topic this evening.
Thank you. And I think in the spirit of a public hearing, could you just give us a brief synopsis of that comment? I know we normally don't do that, but it's a public hearing. I'd like to hear testimony.
Yes, sir. The email is from the Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber of Commerce has concerns about the agenda item, and their concerns are basically on their opportunity to reach out to the members before this came to the city council.
Okay, thank you. No more public comment? Seeing none, I'd like to close the public hearing and bring it back to council for discussion. Anything to discuss here before we?
This is just first reading, right?
Correct. Yes. Okay.
I like it. I support it.
Yeah,
Ready to vote on it.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I mean, this has been in the works from this council and the previous council, so we're finally here. So I'm happy to approve this. So we have a motion.
Oh, are we? Yeah, whatever.
It's for the first.
Yeah.
First reading.
Procedurally, what do we need to do here?
A motion.
It's a motion.
Okay.
Well, I move to introduce ordinance number 1468 for first reading.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Carries unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to our second public hearing. This is the consideration to approve amendments to the fiscal year 2023-2024 fee schedule.
Mayor, both our Finance Director, Gorilla Leon, and Fire Chief Bartlett will be presenting.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. So on June 13th, Council adopted the schedule of fees for fiscal year 23-24. And since then, the city did receive updated ambulance rates from the county. Staff recommends to amend the fee schedule to incorporate this newly released rates. And this concludes my report. We'd be happy to answer specific questions.
Thank you. Chief Bartlett, are you here just for to answer questions, or did you have anything to add?
Yes, sir. Just here for any additional questions.
Thank you. I think it's a small report, pretty self-explanatory. Any questions from council?
Just to clarify, I mean, the amount by which we're increasing our fees is just exactly the amount that the county increased the fees to us, correct?
That is correct. It's actually going to be an increase of about 20% for ambulance transports. Just to kind of bring light to the numbers of what that could result for us is year to date, not including or fiscal year to date, not including June, we've received $550,000 in revenue. Anticipated to be around $600,000, so that increase will put us to about $720,000 if we maintain the calls for service that we've done for the past year.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Do you think this is an incentive for people to sign up for the paramedic subscription program?
Yes, sir. Great plug. Absolutely.
My question then is what the paramedic subscription actually does is if now it charges their insurance first. What if the person doesn't have insurance that covers an ambulance? Does that subscription still cover the full amount?
The subscription will waive any cost associated with that transport to the resident. We will just receive funding from whatever insurance can recoup for us.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. All right. Again, this is a public hearing. I'd like to hear public testimony from the public. Do we have any, Madam City Clerk?
Mr. Mayor, this item was noticed in the city's newspaper pursuant to the legal requirements, and we received no public comment through email or speaker cards.
Thank you. And with that, I'd like to close the public hearing and bring it back to council for discussion. If we have any discussion. Seeing none, is there a motion?
I move to approve amendments to the 23-24 fiscal year fee schedule.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Carries unanimously. Thank you. Those were quick public hearings. All right, so now we're moving on to discussion. We have a couple items up for discussion. One is the consideration of Resolution 2353, adopting the Memorandum of Understanding between the City of Sierra Madre and Sierra Madre firefighters, and Resolution 23-24, modifying the City of Sierra Madre Executive Management Part-Time Classification Plan and Salary Matrix.
Mayor, we have Assistant City Manager Hernandez presenting.
Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and members of the City Council. Today before you, as Mayor mentioned, we have consideration of Resolution 2353, adopting the Memorandum of Understanding between the City of Sierra Madre and the Professional Firefighters Association, and Resolution 2354, which amends the Classification Plan and Salary Matrix. Before we go in discussion with Resolution 2353, I'll start with 2354. 2354, which is amending the Classification Plan and Salary Matrix, before you is the creation of two positions. Two part-time positions were created. One is the Emergency Services Coordinator, which was a much-needed position for city staff support in supporting our EOC efforts to bring staff up to date on trainings, tabletops, to get updated on the emergency response with the Area D. We have a part-time appointment for that position, someone who is very knowledgeable in that field. So we're excited about that. That is going to bring a lot of support to staff in getting our EOC back into shape and updated with information, as well as staff training and other required ICS trainings for that. Secondly, we have EMS coordinator, which we currently have on staff under a different title. This just corrects or amends the salary matrix, so now that we have it properly classified in doing the EMS reporting and for our fire department, which is a position that is required whether we do a outsource or we have an in-house. And one of our employees is doing a great job in that area, so we're just making the correction and getting it corrected on the salary matrix. And lastly on that is the fire chief position. For a while it's been a standalone salary range, which was different from all the other director level positions, and this amendment will update the fire chief's position salary range to be more within the market of and competitive with other fire chief positions within the area. And to get into Resolution 2353, it's updating the or amendments to the Fire Association MOU. And back in March, city staff presented information regarding fire department pay discrepancies with local agencies, specifically San Marino and South Pasadena. Back in March with the presentation, we were 53% behind San Marino in salaries for fire and 40% with South Pasadena. Since then, city management has met with the respective union, fire union, and met and conferred for terms and conditions. And happy to say that we came to an agreement for a 20% cost of living adjustment. And it sounds like a lot, but when you look at the numbers that we had in comparisons, it does bring it up and it gets us closer to where we are with our police department. In addition to the cost of living adjustment that went into effect, that goes into effect retroactively to June 4th, we have the paramedic incentives that were also included, a 15% paramedic incentive for firefighter medics, and a 10% paramedic incentive for out of rank, those who are working at a captain level or a engineer level, but still hold on to the paramedic license. So that, with those changes, we are now 15% within San Marino's salaries, and then within 5% with South Pasadena. So we've closed the gap considerably, and if this gets adopted, that will bring us really close to market and be competitive as well. During the presentation as well, we had some individuals that were looking, but I'm also happy to say that some of those offers have been rescinded and they're staying here, and we hope that today is a good outcome. So we're looking at filling in some vacancies, and with the potential amendment to the MOU has brought some really good applications in, and that was the other part of it, that we would hope that this change, this update to the MOU would also not only retain the employees that we have, but also in our recruiting efforts would bring in some really qualified applicants, and which we did. And so hopefully within the next couple of months we'll be filling in those vacancies with some well-qualified staff. With that, close my report, and I'll answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Assistant City Manager Hernandez. Do we have any questions for staff?
I have a few. So there was a schedule with the hourly part-time matrix, so then our EMS coordinator would then be an hourly rate as well as the EOC or the emergency.
Yes, our part-time positions are all hourly. So yes, it would.
So I noticed there was a position for fire captain, paramedics, engineer 2, and then strike team positions for that are hourly.
Yes, those the part-time salary matrix is going to be looked at during our, every year we do a reorganization where we make some updates and changes. And noticing that our next reorganization, we will look at those closely because we don't utilize those anymore, so they will be removed when we get to our next reorganization.
So we don't have those positions currently, and then if any of our members go out on a strike team, they don't reduce down to an hourly rate,
No.
they stay at their salary.
They stay at their salary. So this is why the update to the salary matrix during the reorganization will be updating that and removing some of these positions that are no longer in use.
And also that position of fire recruit at the very bottom, that's not manned either.
We don't utilize that right now, but the fire recruit is someone coming in and going, and the city putting them through the academy. And so we have a fire recruit, which is a part-time position, but it gets them through the academy. Once they graduate from the academy, and if they have a paramedic license, then they come on board. We also do that for when we're sending someone to paramedic school as well.
And that salary rate was 15 point.
Yes, we haven't utilized that in a while, so that would be something that during the reorg that we would take a look at.
Too, like,
yes.
is that minimum wage right now?
Yeah, it's $15.50.
And then my other question was about, we previously did an amendment to the MOU for their benefits and insurance, and it was listed in this MOU. Is that is the same as what we already
that would be
previously?
Yes, that's status quo.
And that is the same for all of the different. It's the same universally across all of our.
All of our unions have the same benefit package.
Thank you.
Councilmember Goss, you have any questions for ACM? Creeps?
So the staff report mentioned that the estimated fiscal impact of these changes would be about $330,000. It's already been included in the 23-24 budget. In listening to your report, I wondered if that number anticipated the hires that you were discussing, or if this 330,000 is primarily related to the increases for the existing force.
The increases are for the existing.
Okay.
During the calculations for this was before some of these changes occurred. So the estimated amounts were already put in place, and then the vacancies occurred at that time. So, but yeah, we do take that into account. During the vacancies, there will be a cost savings. However, our overtime does increase during this time for coverage. But once we get the new staff members in, then the overtime will decrease, and then our budget will be back to normal where we estimated originally.
Presumably, the budget included funding outside of just this increase for the amendment to the MOU that would cover.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I had a question about the salary matrix, and when I saw the agenda report, I did ask the city manager about this. But I think you said in your oral report that the 2022-2023 only has the cost of living adjustment, but I think it also has the bump on top of it. Is that correct?
So, yeah, it gets a little convoluted because we've had prior negotiations and adoptions of resolutions. So, just to kind of give it a quick explanation of the salary matrix. What goes into effect July 2nd is a elimination of step 1. That's already been adopted in a previous negotiation. So that went into effect, and then from there we took that and increased the 20. Well, I'm sorry. Let me go back to that. So the 20% goes into effect June 4th, retroactively to June 4th.
Okay.
So that went into that adjustment was made. July 2nd, the elimination of step 1 will occur. So that shifts all of the steps down 1, excluding the fire captain's position. So all others will shift down 1. Each member will shift down with that. So if we have a member at step 5, they'll shift down to step 4. So now it gives them an opportunity for a merit increase through the evaluation process the following year or within that year, depending on when their evaluation is due. So that took place that takes place July 2nd, which is already within this pay period that we're in now. So now that the retroactive pay has been is going to be processed if this gets adopted, then the 15% incentive and the 10% incentive will begin effective this pay period, which is July 2nd. So the only thing, what you're seeing in the staff report are two salary matrices. One which increases to 20%, that goes into effect retroactively to June 4th, and then the second one when the paramedic incentives kick in, will be July 2nd. So that one will be the most current one if this gets adopted. That would be the one that we use that's going to be the one that we're going to be using. I just wanted to include that in there so that you could see that the salary matrix were the 20% and then the salary matrix with the incentives. Now, you will notice that the one with the incentives, we broke it out into two because there are out-of-rank personnel that do not have a paramedic license, so they will only get the 20% increase, cost of living adjustment, and then those that carry a paramedic license will go into the other range, which will now increase it with the 10 or 15%.
Thank you. And just to be clear, so the one that we're entertaining retroactively to June 3rd of this year, the firefighter paramedic, that portion does not include our new form of paying for the paramedic incentive program.
Correct.
It has the old stipend, so it's not seen within that. So then we get the 10% bump on top of the cost of living increase.
Correct.
And okay, just want to make sure because did a fantastic job. But when I looked at it first, because I didn't have the previous matrix in front of me, I didn't see where the increases were. But I do know, as I recall, a single function firefighter was like $1,650. So I know that there was some kind of bump in there.
Yeah, when I see this every day, I don't see what you're seeing, and it could be confusing, but because to me it made sense.
It does. It does.
And so I wanted to make sure that we, made it clear that the 20% kicked in first, and then the elimination of step one, and then the addition of the 10% and 15%. So,
and we don't foresee the EMS coordinator or the other position, the one running the EOC, ever becoming a full-time position. That, as far as our needs, that will always be a part-time position?
As we evaluate the workload on those positions, we will assess and make a determination at a future date if they do need to be a full-time status. Right now, on a part-time status, it's what the workload provides for. So the EOC is new, so we will see how that goes, and if in the future that's something that needs to be a full-time, we will certainly bring it before you and take that into consideration. But for right now, I think a part-time, as we discussed through the executive team, a part-time will be very, very helpful to get us updated and get us going with our EOC management. It's been a long overdue, and a task that we've been trying to take on, but other things happen and that just gets set aside, and it's one of the important things that we need as management to really be updated on our EOC management.
I think it's very helpful, and I'm trying to wrap my head around. I know this is a single employee that I'm thinking of. That's our EMS manager right now, and that employee decided to be part-time. Let's say we had capacity to bring that person full-time, and they wanted to be full-time again. What would we do in that situation? Could that individual then still do the dual role, or would we have to hire another EMS coordinator part-time?
No, if we see the need for a full-time position as the EMS coordinator, if the individual that is currently doing it would like a full-time 40-hour-a-week non-sworn position, then we would make that a full-time position.
But I'm thinking, let's say that person wanted to be sworn full-time. Could that individual have the capacity to still do the EMS coordinator job, or would that?
Yes, they would have that capacity,
Okay.
yes.
And how would we pay that individual? That's under the salary matrix.
Well, we would create the position already exists, so that at that point, we would do a cost evaluation of what other cities or other agencies are, what those salaries are, and then we would then figure out what makes sense for Sierra Madre in terms of the pay. It would be very similar to what we're paying now as a part-time. With maybe some slight increase to that as a full-time. It just depends on the workload.
Yeah, I know it's very short-sighted questions, but I just wanted to see if, you never know what's going to happen.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's happened before with part-time positions becoming full-time.
And I have a follow-up question to that. Since we don't have an assistant to the chief right now, and we know that that position did take on a lot of more than just assistant to the chief, it was a lot of grant writing and liaison to the city with prevention and public information. We don't have that position in our city for what all the tasks that the assistant to the chief did do. So who's taking care of that now, or is that going to be a part of the roles for the EOC coordinator?
No, we actually, are you talking about the recent vacancy?
Mm-hmm.
We have had interviews recently, and we have some candidates that will be coming back for a second interview, and hopefully we will make a selection on the next person that will fill in that role. So hopefully within the next month we will have that vacancy filled.
Sorry to ask, I couldn't remember. I know it's outside of this, but is that a full-time or part-time position?
Full-time.
Thank you.
And just to follow up on that, the position as interviewed for is similar to what was being performed before, right?
Yes.
The tasks.
Yes,
So
the
then
task will
just
be the
to-
same, yes, it would be the same responsibilities.
And is that position in the CEA, or is that?
That position
That's
is
why
in
we're
the
not seeing it
CEA,
here,
yes.
yeah.
That's why you're not seeing it here.
Yeah.
Yeah, the position already currently exists.
Correct. I knew it was outside,
Okay.
but I just wanted to ask anyways, because it has to do with the overall personnel of what's
Right.
going on with the department.
Yeah, fair enough, thank you. Any more questions for this item?
I think I had one more. Sorry. Oh, I know. This is fantastic. I thank you for all the work that the union did, as well as yourself, and all of these calculations and how you presented it. How feasible is the continuation and sustainability of our plan?
I think right now, as presented, it really highlights the support from council and the support from city staff. It has made I think a significant difference in the morale in our fire department. Going back for just a few months ago, and I think the sustainability in this part it's going to be here for a while. The paramedic incentive really has made a huge difference in, I think, most of our personnel from the conversations I've had, that they're here to stay. So I think the sustainability is, this strengthened that quite a bit. There will be some changes here and there as time goes on, but I feel confident that this is going to sustain us for a while.
I meant how our budgeting.
Oh, our budgeting.
Yeah, how we're going to be able to.
It's hard to tell. We're able to do this right now, and I think at some point we were going to get here, but we just got here a lot quicker. It's hard to tell in the future how that's going to impact our budget. Obviously, public safety is a big part of our budget, there's going to be some things coming up that the unions are doing, so that may change the way this affects our budget, but it's hard to tell how that's going to impact our budget. Our payroll budget is definitely going to increase quite a bit, but that this is what we do when we have a police and fire department, and those departments really there's a lot of changes happening every year, a lot of whether it's legislative changes, but also operational changes, and we need to stay on top of that, and there is an expense to that, so it's really hard to tell at this point how it's going to impact us in our future.
Thank you so much.
City Manager.
Thank you, Assistant City Manager. All right, let's open this up for public comment. Madam City Clerk, do we have any comment cards?
We did not receive any emails, Mr. Mayor, nor have we received any comment cards for this topic.
Okay. Seeing no public comment, let's bring it back to the council for discussion. Who'd like to start?
I'm happy to start.
Please.
I mean, after the presentation we heard and the updates we were hearing earlier in the spring, you know, I really want to congratulate the city and the union for really jumping on this in a way that, you know, there's a bit of an emergency aspect to this, and I think it was treated accordingly, and I think the work that was done on both sides is really to be commended to get to where we are, and I'm glad to hear that at least the assessment from the city's perspective is that this is, you know, meaningfully improved the morale and the retention and helped with recruiting. Those are all the kinds of, all the things that we were very much worried about, and worried about things spiraling out of control. So I am really excited that we were able to be so nimble and responsive. To Councilmember Lowe's point, which I think, you know, is maybe more of a discussion item than a question, but I do share your concern that while we've kind of put a finger in the dam here, there's not enough fingers in all the other holes in the dam that are probably to come. And so, you know, I've said this many times, but I do think that, you know, while I'm happy that this is fixed for now and we can maintain this, and hopefully that's a good fix for a meaningful amount of time, I don't think this is a long-term, just increasing salary to match our sister organizations is not going to be sustainable with our budget and our revenue sources. So again, not a discussion for tonight, but just want to make sure that we're talking about that every time we talk about this, so that it's just clear that we are in need of a long-term solution and some analysis as to what is sustainable and what we think the likely costs are here and how we can maintain that over time.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Anybody else?
I'll comment. Well said. I agree with everything you said. This is like, I think, the biggest pay bump I've seen since I've been on the council for any of our employee groups. And I do take the point that we kind of had a quasi kind of emergency situation, which I think was for good reason. We started a new fire department a few years ago, and we started our people out at a very low rate. We weren't competitive, and we knew these days were coming. So I support this. I feel like this should give our fire personnel a motivation to stay with us and train with us, and I think long term with us, because fire and police, public safety is our top priority in this government. But I do agree with what I've heard here and implied in Councilmember Lowe's question, and that is we really do have to have some discussions here, future discussions, about how we're going to pay for these kinds of increases in our budget in years to come, given that all other employee groups will be back at the table and we have other expenses coming down the pike. So, but we'll save that for another day. For now, I'm happy to support this.
I just want to congratulate both parties in coming to an agreement and all the hard work. I can't even imagine the work that goes into this for you guys in such a really short term. And it really shows how far we've come so quickly in our city. We are one of the only self-contained cities that uses our own fire department, our own police department, our own library, our own public works. And our fire department, as Commissioner Wood mentioned last council meeting, has been doing such an outstanding job. We're now part of the unified command, which honestly I didn't know we would ever be able to attain. And it just proves that we're now compensating our personnel for how fantastic they are. And I appreciate all the hard work that went into this.
Yeah, I don't know how much I can add to that. Thank you to our personnel and our union for coming to the table. You know, if you recall, I got very emotional hearing a story about one of our platoons and who was on staff and the decisions that were made and basically saved some lives. That type of knowledge doesn't come from a revolving door type of department, right? It comes from long-term knowledge of your trade. And so in order to keep the great employees that we have for the city of Sierra Madre around, I am more than happy to support this. I'm happy even happy we get a bump for the chief, a well-deserved bump as well. All around, as Councilmember Goss said, public safety is a priority. We sit up here and we are the representatives of the public, and job number one is to keep them safe. And we have staff in place that do a wonderful job, wonderful job. And I can't thank them enough. And to hear that the morale has picked up, it excites me because I'm so grateful for the work that's been done. And I'm thank you for working at a lower rate than you probably should have for as long as you did. I can't really add any more, but I wholeheartedly support this. And as has been said tonight and in previous council meetings recently, is that we have a larger discussion at hand, but we'll save that for another time. And looking forward to keeping this town safe and happy. With that, do we have a motion?
I move that we approve Resolution 2353, adopting the MOU between the City of Sierra Madre and the Sierra Madre Professional Firefighters Resolution, and Resolution 2354, modifying the City of Sierra Madre's executive management and part-time classification plan and salary matrix.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Carries unanimously. Thank you.
Good job, guys. Thank you.
I think it's worth an applause. Okay, discussion item number 2, consideration of Tesla Supercharger license agreement. I think we have analyst Norwood.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. At the request of Mayor Pro Tem Krebs, staff has been researching the possibility of having EV charging infrastructure installed in our cities. In the past year, staff has reached out to Tesla on multiple different occasions about having Tesla superchargers installed, and just recently in May of 2023, Tesla has responded to this request. After a few meetings with Tesla, it was determined that the city-owned lot at 30 South Baldwin, in between Taylor's Market and the Sinclair gas station, would be the most ideal location for the superchargers. The site is centrally located within Sierra Madre. It's approximately 1 mile away from the 210 freeway. It's in a safe location, and it provides customers with access to shopping and dining while waiting for vehicles to charge. So here we can see the proposed layout of the parking lot. So here we can see the proposed layout of the parking lot. It has 2 ADA slots right here, and then the 12 superchargers, and then this is where the equipment is going to be located. And these superchargers can fully charge a vehicle in about 40 minutes. Here is what an example of completed projects have looked like in the past. So these superchargers will be installed at no cost to the city. Tesla will be responsible for ongoing utility costs and maintenance of charging infrastructure. The city will continue to provide landscape maintenance to the entire parking lot. The proposed contract has a 10-year term with an optional 5-year extension. The city will receive $2,724 monthly, which equates to $32,688 annually from this project. Construction time is estimated between 4 to 6 months after the project's approval. Construction will include making the parking lots perpendicular rather than slanted, repaving the spaces where the chargers will be placed, removing and reconfiguring bowouts, planters, and landscaping, and installing all the necessary equipment. Looking to the future of EV charging, Tesla, Ford, GM, Volvo, Polestar, and Rivian have recently entered into agreements to standardize the Tesla charger as the universal plug for electric vehicles. This process will take several years, but it is something to look forward to. In the meantime, staff will continue to explore other options to bring EV infrastructure in other places around the city. On June 28th, 2023, the Sierra Madre Natural Resources Commission received a presentation regarding this opportunity, followed by a discussion. The commission unanimously approved, recommending approval for the supercharger license agreement to the City Council. Tonight, it is recommended that the City Council direct the City Manager to execute the Tesla Supercharger license agreement. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about any of this.
Thank you, management intern. I called you analyst, but you've been doing presentations. You're an analyst in my mind, not an intern anymore. Great job.
Thank you.
Do we have any questions for management intern Norwood?
I have a question.
Please.
I don't know if maybe you'll be able to answer or not. I understand that this isn't going to cost us anything.
Correct.
But Pasadena is doing this, and it's going to cost them.
That is correct.
And I'm wondering how come we're doing so much better than Pasadena.
So Tesla does provide a range of rent between $0 to $200, and we were given a premium rate. I believe we're paying $227 per stall, and I do think this is because of freeway access, safe community, our local dining and shopping options, and we also promised that we would streamline the construction permitting process, make it very easy for them, not have any run-ins with that. So that's probably why we're doing a lot better than they are in terms of the monthly rent that we're going to be receiving.
Councilmember Goss, if I may ask, the normal process for a project like this is up to 2 years, 16 to 19 months, and we're looking to complete this project within 1 year. So that was a consideration that Tesla took into consideration when they offered us that amount of money.
Any other questions?
How many Teslas do we usually have in Sierra Madre? Do you know?
I don't know the exact number of how many people own them in our city, but I did get information that about 1,000 Teslas per week, not different cars, but per week will drive around this area. So that's the data for that.
I think that's a big selling point. So as far as I know we're taking care of the landscaping as we already do, but as far as the bow outs and kind of reconfiguration, is Tesla paying for that, or are we paying for that?
They are going to pay for whatever works for their specific area, and then everything else Public Works will decide what's best for the rest of the parking lot. Once they're finished with their construction phase, then we'll go back in and see what else needs to be done with that.
And I know you mentioned, the range is anywhere from $0 to $200. Anywhere during the negotiation, did you hear any talk about, a lot of times in lease agreements there's elevators or cost of living increases or whatever you want to call it, as far as the rate's concerned?
Yes, so we did consider an escalator. However, we felt that the starting rate would be lower, so our calculation showed the rate of $227 being the most beneficial to the city.
Thank you. So seeing no more questions, thank you. I'd like to open this item up for public comment. Madam City Clerk.
Mr. Mayor, we did not receive any emails in the city clerk's office, nor do we have any speaker cards.
All right, let's bring it back to council for discussion. Anybody want to talk about it?
Since my name was attached and I own a Tesla, I mean, I just want to thank the staff. I mean, I brought this up casually maybe a year ago, and I mean, there was just really, folks just jumped on it. I mean, I think it's an exciting project, obviously, for lots of reasons. I think it's going to be amazing for our downtown area. I think there's so many marketing and publicity opportunities here, both with the city and the chamber, just, all of the ideas that we've been talking about in terms of, signage and, maybe spotlighting, a business a week or a business a month, so that when people come to charge, they do have free time, and why not wander and get a coffee or shop or buy some flowers for your wife on the way home. And so many opportunities to really sell our downtown, and then hopefully once they've actually experienced it, they'll come back even when they don't need to charge their car. So I'm just excited about this for so many reasons. And then, subsequent to the conversations with Tesla, which I have to admit, I'm really surprised how quickly they're moving, because actually my car's in the shop and they're not moving fast at all. Subsequent to the discussions with Tesla, I mean, there's just been all this news about how Tesla is coordinating with, many, if not most, of the other electric car manufacturers. So this is going to be really open it up to beyond just the Tesla owners. I mean, the folks that have EVs or hybrids that could use this network, you know, it's really going to be broader than just the 1,000 Teslas a week. So I'm really excited about this opportunity.
I'm excited too. I was just thinking that when we mention something and the quickness that our staff really are the experts is phenomenal. And to your point too, other cities don't have what we have, and that's why I appreciate why we have such an amazing city in Sierra Madre. I think this is one of those great, fantastic ways too for us to really promote sustainability in our planet, and I appreciate that it's giving people this opportunity that's close by for our residents as well as people coming to visit, and I'm excited to see what this will bring for our downtown as well and our businesses, and I'm excited, so thank you.
Anything to add?
I'm just proud of Sierra Madre. And I just feel like it's just another feather in our cap. Maybe I shouldn't be boastful or proud, but I think our staff really did something here. I mean, you take a look at per capita, Pasadena, Arcadia, they don't have as many Teslas. They won't have as many Tesla charging stations as we will have. Just look at that. And then look at the fact that we did this at zero cost to us. Well, they're paying. So I think that is tremendous. And I think we should put that in the front page of the Mountain View's News. Hopefully it'll get up there. And to Mayor Pro Tem's point, yes, eventually most electric vehicles will be able to use these charging stations. And so it's not just a Tesla thing. So fantastic, just fantastic, very exciting.
Thank you. Yeah, kudos. This discussion started, I think, with Mayor Pro Tem Krebs and myself, and knowing that there is a need in our community for electric charging stations for vehicles, Tesla or whatever it might be. And I know I spoke with the city manager about this. There were initial talks with Tesla, and I think the initial review was, nah, Sierra Madre, too small. But we have a tenacious staff, and they kept at it. And then they ran the numbers and saw how many Teslas run through a very, very small area in a short amount of time. They said, I think they offered more than we actually are agreeing to. But we didn't want to take that whole parking lot up with these chargers. So thank you for our tenacity of the staff to continue this, not only to help our businesses and bring people in to experience what we have in our downtown district and the beauty and the wonderfulness of Sierra Madre, but also to our residents. Not everybody has a supercharger, and maybe they want to, they need to get a big charge on real quick, and they can roll up and get a charge. I was apprehensive knowing it was just Tesla at first, but once I heard the news that GM and Volvo and Volkswagen and everybody else were going to be on board, that made me very happy. And I was talking with other council members in other cities regarding this issue, and I think some were trying to steer me away from Tesla for the reason that they weren't getting revenue, but we're getting revenue. I didn't ask the question, but I know I asked the question before. They're going to be using electricity. You know what happens when electricity is being used as residents? We pay UUT tax, and guess what? On top of our rent, we're going to be getting UUT revenue on this as well. So I think it's a win-win for our residents and guests, and I currently am in full support of this.
Can I add to that?
Please.
UUT revenue from mainly non-residents.
Yes.
It's kind of like a hotel
Good
tax.
point, right? Good point. Good point. All right, I think we have consensus here. Do we have a motion?
I move to direct the city manager to sign the supercharger license agreement with Tesla.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Yay.
Carries unanimously.
I always forget that you have to say aye even though you made the motion on the second. Okay.
I'll keep looking at you.
I know, thank you.
But you keep me honest on the agenda, so, which I've lost here. I think we're at the end.
Council.
New items,
Agenda item.
future agenda items. I had one in mind, but now I've lost it, so. If we could just look into I don't know if it has to be on the agenda, but if we can look into the benefit, I think to Mayor Pro Tem Krebs' point, as far as the historic designation of both Lizzie's and the Richardson House. What are the benefits? What are the cons? I know we heard from President of the Historical Society, Leslie Ziff, who lives in a beautiful historic home, that that's what the Historic Society wants, but I want to make sure we do want this. So if we could have staff kind of look into that, and maybe if it's feasible, bring it to council, or the planning commission, actually, I think, would be the one to look at that.
Mayor, would you like that in the form of a presentation or a memo to council?
You know, I think the planning commission usually hears this stuff, so you know, I don't want to set the planning commission's agenda, but I guess we can do that. So if that could be brought to as a presentation to the planning commission, but I'd like the Historic Society involved in the process to make sure that this is something they actually want, if that makes sense. Okay. Any other items? It's only 8:15. I don't know what to do.
It's right outside.
You want to stick around another half an hour?
Extra public comment?
No. All right, so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn to our next regular meeting.
Oh, but it's, the next regular meeting is not until, do you want to announce that?
Yeah, we should probably announce that. So we have extra time, right? So if you're wondering why we're in these Hawaiian shirts or aloha shirts and dresses, it's because we're going to be dark for the next 2 regular meeting schedules. So we typically wear this attire during that time, abutting that time. We did change it from just being dark in August to the last meeting in July and the first meeting in August. So that's what we'll be resuming in the second, what's normally, I guess, to be the 4th Tuesday of August.
August 22nd.
August 22nd. Okay.
I move to adjourn to August 22nd.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Enjoy the break. We are adjourned.
Yay. Go team.